Chapter 27, Tracking Aid Memoir. Definitions. Tracking. Tracking can be defined as the art of being able to locate, identify, and pursue sign, and from intelligent interpretations and deductions gain reasonably accurate information about the quarry concerned. Sign. This is any physical indication left on or in the environment by the passage of any animal or inanimate object. Ground sign. These are ground level marks or disturbances. Top sign. This is defined as any sign above the ankle. Conclusive sign. This is sign directly linked to the quarry. Substantiating sign. This is sign probably made by the quarry. Key sign. This is the most prominent sign. Sign pattern. This is the sign that serves to indicate the habits or the peculiarities of a quarry. Time bracket. All sign in the initial stages is placed into a time bracket. That is, the time lapse between the earliest possible time the sign could have been made and the time it was located. Straight edge. This is the line found on leaves or blades of grass caused by the application of pressure. Spoor. The Afrikaans word derived from the Dutch word for footprint, and is reserved for that sign left by an animal, including man, as opposed to the sign left by a vehicle or inanimate object. The track. This is the line of sign. Visual tracking. This is the art of being able to track a human being, animal, or vehicle by the marks it has left. Scent tracking. Scent tracking is normally performed by dogs. Tracking picture. This is the overall picture gained by the tracker over any given length of track. Tracking medium. This is the generic term used for the material in which the sign was left by the quarry. Exit and entry points. These are the points or passageways through which a quarry may pass from one environment to another. Pointers. These are the signs that serve to indicate the direction of movement. Foul track is defined as a track that has entered an area where numerous other tracks exist. Deception. When a quarry attempts to lose the tracker by leaving misleading sign. Indicator pace. This is the footprint immediately before or after an intended change of direction. Casting. This is the method of locating or relocating sign that has been lost. Tuning in. This is the initial reading of the sign that enables the tracker to think and act like the quarry. Pace tracking. This is pace-for-pace tracking carried out during the tuning-in period or when the track becomes difficult to pursue. Track isolation. This is where the tracker, having anticipated the intended route, is able to abandon the track and leapfrog ahead. Traits. These are the characteristic features or qualities distinguishing a particular quarry. Physique. This relates to the general appearance of the quarry. Diet. This relates to the food and drink that the quarry regularly consumes. Habitat. This is where the quarry lives. It can be rural, suburban, city, or remote territory. Sign. Characteristics of sign. Regularity. This is an effect caused by straight lines, arches, or other geometrical shapes being pressed into the ground, leaving marks not normally found in nature. Flattening. This is the general leveling or depression caused by pressure on an area compared to the immediate surroundings. Transfer. This is the deposit carried forward over an area after the quarry has moved from one environment to another. Color change. This is the difference in color or texture of sign from the area that surrounds it. Discardables. This is anything that is left behind by the quarry. Disturbances. This is any other change to or rearrangement of the natural state of an area caused by the passage of the quarry. Classifications of sign. Substantiating sign. These signs may or may not have been caused by the quarry. Conclusive sign. This sign has definitely been made by the quarry you are tracking. Temporary sign. Some types of sign are termed temporary because they are particularly affected by weathering agents. Permanent sign. Permanent sign is very resistant to weathering. Factors affecting sign. 4 main factors affect sign. Spoor and sign left by other animals and vehicles. Features of the terrain. Climatic conditions. Time. third-party spore and sign. Spore and sign belonging to one of three groups. You, the tracker, and your team. The quarry, which can be one or more persons or vehicles. A third party. The terrain. The major types of terrain that offer very distinctive attributes for the tracker. Grass and cultivated areas. Rocky ground. Sandy desert. Primary forests. Secondary forests and dense undergrowth. Inland waterways and marshy areas. The seashore. Snow-covered regions. Urban and built-up areas. The climate. The three climatic factors that affect the track are direct sunlight, strong wind, heavy precipitation. All these factors will adversely affect the sign of a track. The degree this effect will have is varied and depends on the strength of the element, whether they were working in combination or separately, the duration the element impinged on the sign, the type of terrain. Time. Time is the fourth of the factors that affect sign. To be able to assess the time bracket between when a spore mark was made and when it is found is one of the crucial tracking skills. Interdependence. The tracker must be aware that the four factors that affect sign do not influence the track independently. They work in unison on the sign and spore to weather it and to change its nature. Sometimes one of the factors becomes dominant, and at other times it is the interplay of the factors that produces the transformations. The attributes of a tracker. To be a competent tracker, you must possess or develop the following qualities: patience, an inquisitive mind, honesty, perseverance, acute observation. All five senses must be well attuned. Above average endurance. Above average standard of fieldcraft. Mental and physical determination. A good knowledge of the local fauna and flora. Curiosity. Self-knowledge. A good tracker is aware of his limitations both in terms of fatigue and tracking ability. In short, he is honest with himself and others. Psychology of the quarry. Attempt to picture in your mind the party making the track. Try to get into his skin and into his mind. The five senses. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch have to be used to note everything and then remember it. Memory. Memory is the process of storing and retrieving information, or retention and recall. Storage techniques, association, groupings or clusters, visualization. Retrieval techniques. The Greek system of a familiar room, not in the tie or some item that is out of place. Mnemonics recall is state-dependent. Recall is state-dependent. Memory is either short or long-term. Forgetting is when information becomes inaccessible either because it is no longer in storage or it cannot be retrieved. Factors involved in forgetting: time, interference, distortions. Memories can be entirely false. Memories are not fixed but change over time and can also be affected by other memory inputs. Enhancing the memory: fantasy, visualization, association, exaggeration. Enhancing the memory: observation, scanning and searching. Divide the area into foreground, middle distance, distance. Where to look. The following are places where sign will be most obvious: near any source of water, on muddy and sandy patches, in high grass or thick undergrowth, on steep hillsides, on the edges of clearings, where obstacles have to be crossed. What to look for. As you are scanning and searching, you should remember each of the factors that make an object visible: shape, shadow, silhouette, surface, shine, spacing, and movement. Before and after studies. The format: natural state, disturbed state, confirmatory actions. Format for describing an individual: sex, age in a 5-year bracket. Use dress, surroundings, activity, as well as physical appearance to assess age. Height, in a 5-centimeter bracket. Use reference points. A door is 2 meters. Compare with a known person to estimate. Build, slim, medium, large. Posture, bent, straight, lopsided. Hair, color, parting, length, style, clean, dirty. Face, complexion, shape, features, facial hair, scars. Eyes, spacing, color, large, staring, glasses. Gait, speed, stride, limp, swagger, military. Dress. So as to avoid omissions, work from the head to the feet. Carrying. Describe any articles that the person is holding or carrying. Distinguishing feature. If the person has any unusual characteristics, note them. Other remarks? Reminds me of. If it is possible, name a person to whom the individual has a likeness. Stalking. Definition. It is the art of approaching an object under cover or by stealth. It is more generally described as the ability to move rapidly or fairly rapidly from place to place without being seen, heard, or otherwise detected while at the same time seeing and observing. The golden rule. Take risks early. Practice of camouflage and concealment. Remembering why things are seen. Knowledge of the quarry. A principle of stalking is that you must understand and know as much as possible about your quarry. It is a mistake to underestimate your quarry. The following is a list of useful questions about the quarry the stalker should try to answer. How does it feed? Where does it feed? What precautions does it take to guard against surprise? How quick is it to take alarm? What sort of places does it frequent? What kind of cover does it go to? How does it get there? The wind. Carries scent and sound. Sometimes it has an adverse effect and sounds carried towards the quarry, whereas at other times, the noise generated by the wind can cover the sound of your movements. Scent. The trekker has to be aware of the scent that he may be giving out, that he will alert his quarry, whether it be human or animal. Eliminate any possible chance of the quarry detecting you by smell. It may be necessary to avoid any of the following for 2 or 3 days before going on a tracking task. Toothpaste, aftershave lotion, perfume, deodorants, soap, hair gel, talcum powder, shaving soap, shampoo, medications such as liniments, spices, and garlic. In addition, the visual tracker, especially the military tracker, must use his sense of smell to warn him of any danger. The following would alert a soldier on a tracking mission. Cooking smells, human sanitation, domesticated animal smells, campfires, slaughtered animals, freshly dug earth, cigarette smoke, ash, or butts. Stalking techniques. If one word should be remembered by a stalker, it is stealthily. Methods of movement. The cautious approach. This consists of walking calmly and quietly. The upright crouch. The ball of the foot should touch the ground first, followed by the heel. The feline crawl. When the distance between you and your quarry is lessening and when cover is getting scarce, it will be necessary to employ the feline crawl. You crawl along on hands and knees. The hands feel for suitable places on which to rest, and the corresponding knee comes up to the same position. A flat or belly crawl. This procedure is used for the final stage of the stalk. It is necessary to go down full length on the ground, flat on the abdomen, with the head down. You work yourself forward bit by bit, a few inches at a time, using the hands and the sides of the feet. Freezing. Used if you are liable to be spotted. This technique is most effective with a non-human quarry. It does have a place in the repertoire of skills to be used when stalking a human, although then the background, distance, and light conditions are more critical. Route planning and the stalk. Wind direction and strength. As we know, the wind carries not only smell but also sound, therefore you should stalk with the wind in your face. Vegetation. As the vegetation cover alters, the stalker has to select new material to top up his personal camouflage. Movement. Each leg of the stalk will probably require a different method of movement. For instance, if you're behind a hedge and not visible from the quarry, a crouching posture will be ideal, whereas if you're working your way through a wheat field overlooked by the quarry, it will be necessary to adopt the feline crawl. Divide the route into bounds. Landmarks. During the stalk, you will require reference points for orientation purposes. Cover. Check that the obvious features such as ditches, walls, hedges, buildings, and riverbeds will actually cover you to your destination and that the cover is complete. Dead ground. This is the military term used to describe an area that, although overlooked by an observer, is a blind spot to him because of the folds in the ground. Obstacles. The route planning has to take into account any obstacles before the stalker sets off. Roads and waterways. Try to plan to cross roads and waterways at bends or corners. Plowed land. Use the furrows as cover. Long grass or cereal crops. Keep changing directions so that there isn't a uniform, predictable movement of the foliage, causing color change. Observation points. There should be pre-planned points at which you will halt and observe the quarry. Noise. The stalker has to take advantage of existing noises such as streams, the wind, rain, vehicles, the sea, or aircraft to cover any sounds that he may make. Animals. Any wildlife that you disturb will alert the quarry. The curiosity of domesticated animals will, apart from the more obvious barking of dogs, be noticed by the observant enemy. Hillsides. If you're stalking on a mountain or hilly side, try to put yourself into a position above the quarry, but avoid skylining. Stalking animals. Grazing animals tend to raise their heads at frequent but irregular intervals, so do not be tempted to make a sudden dash or any quick movement, as you can be caught out and they will be put to flight. Alternative routes. After choosing the main route, consider other paths in case you have to abort or modify the stalk. Rehearse hand signals. Control the tracking group. The tracker has to be aware that he must control the group he is with. Night movement. We see less than in the day. We develop night vision. We see shapes, not detail. We see skylines and silhouettes, and so does the quarry. We may see movement. If caught in the light of a vehicle, freeze, quickly close one eye to protect your night vision. Beware that vehicle lights turn night into day. Use night vision aids if available. Hearing and smell become more important. Turn your ears towards any sound. Stop and listen. Keep close to the ground. Freeze if you hear a noise. Keep quiet. Don't have loose equipment. Check before starting out. Be aware of skylining and shadows. Move carefully using the ghost walk, the catwalk, or the kitten crawl. Clear your route. Don't step on any dry vegetation. Use any available cover. Breathing into the air on cold nights will create a cloud above the stalker. Breathe into your jacket or the grass to disperse your breath with a scarf. The Track Pursuit Drill, TPD, Introduction. The following assists the student in interpreting the sign. The sign must be studied very carefully. Distinguish the sign from among the many others. As soon as possible, the condition of the quarry being followed must be assessed, that is, whether it is lazy, tired, alert, confident, or any other indication as to its state. Idiosyncrasies and traits must be noted. Any slight change in the sign, no matter how small, must be investigated thoroughly. Anticipate the quarry's moves, direction of travel, and any likely deceptions. Build up a complete picture from all the available sign. Continuously monitor the ground and country in relation to the direction of travel. The TPD sequence. The TPD is a distillation of lessons learned in the art of tracking. It has been devised and formulated by the military to provide a framework from which the tracker can work. It is particularly useful for the student because he has the guidance of a sequence. There are 7 steps that are in effect a cycle. When the end of the cycle is reached, the sequence is started again. This drill continues until the culmination of the track. Step 1. Assessment of the general direction. The tracker looks ahead along the perceived track to the maximum visibility and back to where he is standing for a general direction of the track. Step 2. Eliminate all openings and finalize the general direction. If there are 2 or more openings, compare the ages and eliminate old tracks, assuming the track that you are following is the most recent one. Step 3. Look for the farthest sign and connect it back to your position. This is to ensure there is not a split track and that no other form of deception has been practiced. This ensures that you, the visual tracker, are still following the same track. Step 4. Look through the vegetation for the quarry. This step is an ongoing process, and that is the reason it is placed midway through the sequence. It is very important and must be carried out at every opportunity. The visual tracker must always be aware of the possibility that the quarry is close. Step 5. Check the area to the left and right for deceptive tactics. By carrying out this drill, you ensure that your quarry has not gone off your line of travel and that there isn't any access to the sides. There are many ways in which the quarry can confuse the tracker, Chapter 13. This step is to combat being led astray. Step 6. Plan and memorize your next footsteps. Here, the tracker is working out the best route to the furthest visible sign made by the quarry. Remember, we are minimizing all unnecessary movement which could give away our position. Step 7. Move forward with stealth. The most vulnerable time for the visual tracker is when he is moving. Any sudden movement might catch the quarry's eye. This will result in the quarry being put to flight, or in the case of a military tracker, in being ambushed. When the tracker arrives at the farthest sign of the quarry, he again visually checks all the area to the front for the quarry's presence before restarting the cycle. Signs that a track has been overshot. Individual tracking signs, conclusive or substantiating, are absent. The ground is fresh. Cobwebs that would normally be broken by the quarry are intact. Dew is still present on the vegetation and ground. Vegetation as a whole will be in a natural state, showing no signs of disturbance. Deception. The following is a list of deception methods: walking backwards, conversion of sign, brushing the track, stone hopping, tiptoe walking, fade out, splitting up if the quarry is in a group, crossing or walking in a stream or riverbed, looping back. Reasons for using deception tactics: to gain time, to lose the tracking team, to kill the tracker. Judging age. The importance of the time bracket. The sign needs to be placed into a time bracket for the following reasons: to distinguish between old and fresh sign, to determine the approximate time lapse since the quarry passed through the area, to establish the correct track picture, to use foul tracks to your advantage and not be misled by them, to gather information for use by intelligence analysts. The 4 factors affecting sign: time, features of the terrain, climatic conditions, spoor, and sign left by third parties. The terrain is a medium. The terrain is the medium upon which the quarry writes as he passes. What he writes is the sign. Is the medium of a nature that will retain the sign or not, and if so, for how long? Weathering. Consider if the sign has been exposed to the elements or sheltered. Methods for judging the age of sign: comparison of color, breaking and comparing sticks and twigs, comparison of impression, time brackets created by precipitation, wind, superimposed game tracks, wildlife, prints in mud, exposed earth, dry leaves, sticks, growing vegetation, man-made objects, fires, worm casts, ants and termites, animal droppings, smell, age stands. Deduction, the thought process. Deduction is the final phase of the mental process that the tracker employs. To recap, the full process is: observe, remember, select and analyze, deduce and comprehend. Aspects of deduction. Deductions from a single print. A single print can give: the size of a footprint gives an indication of height. The depth of the impression, all other things being equal, is in direct relation to the weight of the man and his equipment. The angle of the print with respect to the line of march is indicative of the posture of the person. An athletically built person tends to walk with feet parallel. Any scuff marks around the edges would suggest an idiosyncratic gait. Deductions from a series of prints. A series of prints from the same quarry lets the tracker judge the speed, the gait, the load being carried. The heavier the load, the shorter the pace. Estimating numbers in a group. Analysis of groups. The analysis of peripherals. Deduction and the military tracker. A military tracker is trying to assess direction of movement, age of the track, numbers in the group, the speed, loads, tactics, weapons, sex. The military process. When the military apply the deductive process to the work of their trackers, they use the following system: facts, something physically present; interpretation, the tracker's reasoning, interdeduction; deduction, the tracker's reasoning, interdeduction; assumption, the tracker's reasoning, interdeduction; reaction. This is to the conclusions from above. Confirmation of the reasoning and the reaction. Reporting of the sightings. Recording. This is the final stage of the process when the written report is submitted. Interdeduction. Interpretation and deduction, interdeduction, the essence of the tracker's mental process. The tracker starts by listing all known facts. He then asks himself, how did it occur? Why is it like it is? When did it happen? Who caused the sign? The lost track drill, the stages. The lost track drill is broken down into the following: initial search, initial probe, initial cast, extended cast, streamlined search, likely areas searching, training trackers. Tracking exercises and lessons. The following are the main types of tracking exercises and instructional periods: observation stand, observation lane, age stand, pace tracking exercise, pace tracking lane, incident awareness stand, incident awareness lane, tracking competition, final exercise. Equipment, essentials: day pack, suitable outdoor clothing including hat, maps protected in plastic bag or map case, flashlight, medium size with a switch that can't be inadvertently put on, Silva compass, long tweezers, notebook and pencil, rather than a pen, keep both in a plastic bag, a set of lightweight waterproofs, jacket and trousers if not already being worn, a short homemade flag, maximum length 0.75 meters, exact change for the telephone or a phone card or a mobile phone for use in emergencies, binoculars. The ideal binoculars for watching wildlife areas is 7-350 or 8-340. Higher magnification binoculars are very difficult to hold still without a support, and you may want to use them in some pretty awkward positions. For a young person whose budget is tight, a pair of ex-military binoculars in good condition will suffice. These can easily be obtained from many ex-military surplus stores. Magnifying glass, cold snacks to last a day, thermos flask with a hot drink, water bottle, tape measure, small personal medical kit including bandages, headache tablets, insect repellent, etc. Ask the advice of your local pharmacist if in doubt. Small waterproof container of plaster of Paris and the kit required to make a plaster mold. This book in a plastic bag, small penknife, whistle, watch. Optional items: camera, tape recorder, handheld GPS, night viewing aids. Remember, prior to departure, inform someone of your intentions and planned return time. Lay out and check all the items you intend to take with you on your tracking task.